Wipe coding with Replit full course step by step. If you want to learn wipe coding with Replit from start to finish, this full step-by-step course is for you. We will cover project setup, prompting, building features, testing it out, refining, and deploying. So you understand the full workflow, not just random tricks. And by the end of this course, you will be able to wipe code confidently and ship real projects using Replit. Let's get started. Now this is a complete beginner-friendly walkthrough designed for someone who has never coded before, or maybe just opened Replit once and got confused and then closed it again. So let's start with the most important question: what is wipe coding? Wipe coding is basically a modern way of building apps where you focus on describing what you want instead of memorizing complex syntax and just spending hours writing a simple code and just still having too many bugs or errors still in it. So instead of asking yourself, how do I write this function in JavaScript, you're going to ask, what should this app do? Then you use AI inside Replit to help you generate and refine the code. You are still the builder, you are just working smarter. Now let's understand Replit first. Replit is an online coding platform that runs directly in your browser. You don't need to install programming languages, you don't need to configure environments, and everything runs in your cloud. In 2026, Replit includes a powerful AI assistant built into the workspace, which makes wipe coding practical for beginners. Now let's go to step by step, but before we do that, let's just quickly take a quick overview of Replit. So if you're a beginner, you will just know or have an idea what actually we're supposed to do in this application. Simply go over to replit.com, you log in or create a new account. You're going to meet up with this simple dashboard. You might get overwhelmed, but don't worry, just take a deep breath and I'm going to explain everything. It's not that complicated. On the main dashboard, you're going to see the home page. This is just the general page and you're just going to see your recent projects in here. Below, right here, you have the recent apps that you created. And the main thing in this folder is that you have a text box, and in this text box, you can just ask AI to generally just generate an app or even just design something, a web page, a website with the help of AI. And of course, you can just drop in files or just import a Figma design, which is really easy. So if you already have a complete structure and idea and you just have like a graph or just outlined sketch for that, you can just drop in the exact file. Now let's move on. The other thing here is apps. These are basically just where all your apps are going to be stored. So any recent project that you work with, it's going to be here. And this is basically just the folder where all your published apps are going to be available. If you've published any of your apps or designs publicly so other viewers or just other people using Replit can interact with it, they're just going to appear here, and it just works like any social media account ever. You just see all of your posts and your published articles right here. But instead, you're just seeing your published apps or designs. You can also see options like create app or just import code or design, and they're pretty much the same for when you go onto your homepage and you can just drop in files or just create an app. We are going to be working with the developer frameworks and just this simple button that says create app. Now the developer frameworks is where you're going to see all of the coding stacks and templates that are already available, and you can just start and you won't have to customize and keep adding the languages in manually. You simply click on create and just pick up a file. We're going to pick the very basic file. We're going to start off with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that is going to be in static. You can just go ahead and pick any of these that suit your coding style the best. We're going to pick this one and simply just click on creating app. And now once you're in the workspace, you might get a little overwhelmed with how much there is to see, but just take a deep breath. It's not that complicated and I'm going to explain everything. Now, once you're in your editing page, you are going to see all of this on your screen. It may be a little overwhelming seeing too many folders and just so much on the screen, and you may not know what most of this means, but I'm going to explain it. Just take a moment to breathe because this is where most beginners just feel overwhelmed, and let me simplify it completely. Right here on the main big text box, this is the console, and this is basically all your results of the code that you're going to see before you actually preview and publish it. This is basically just the compiler, and it's just going to compile the entire code and run it just to see if it's actually running and everything is perfect. Now, once you pick this template, you're going to see these 3 files, and they're just going to look like this that you can further just edit. It's going to be much simpler, but I refined and edited this so it has my own additional touch. Simply, you're going to see one as index.html, and then you're going to see one for style.css and one for JavaScript, and it's just going to stand out as script.js. The console is basically for output. The index is going to be the one that is going to control your structure. It's basically the skeleton, and style CSS is just going to control your appearance and how it basically looks. And JavaScript is just going to control the behavior of the web app, and it's just going to make it interactive. Now, in the very center, you're basically just going to see the code and where actually you're going to start typing your code at. Here is the console where you're going to run your codes before actually getting the final preview. On the console, you can see this little green button that says configure your app. Once you click on it, this is just going to give you the rundown of your entire code, and you'll be able to preview it. These plus signs are basically just the files that you have here. You can keep adding more files. If you don't know how to add, simply just click on a new tab, and whatever you're looking for, even if it's a file, just create a new file and you can see that there's a new file. So if you need to add more coding languages or just more folders for JavaScript or even HTML, then this is great, but just make sure you don't add duplicate files. That is going to overcomplicate your entire workspace. And that's it. That's the entire environment. Now let's build our first project together as part of this course. We're going to build a simple application where every time we click on preview or just generate, we're going to see a new code on the screen. This is basically just going to be a code integration or just a loop, and we're going to use simple arrays and loops for this code. You can just go ahead with any idea that you like. If you have a small calculator idea that you want to make, a mini game, or you just want to start off with something that is basic, that is great. You wouldn't want to start off with something that is too complicated, and it's best that if you're a beginner, you stick to the basics. Now, once you have actually written your entire code here, just follow the basic structure that HTML is just going to be the index, style is just going to be the actual style of your entire app, and in script, you're going to just type in how you want your application to behave. And with this flow of your code, once you've completed, and you're going to write your code with this flow, once you've actually completed writing, you can go ahead and remove the errors and just go back to the traditional method that you just make it run once and see what's the issue, and that's how it basically works. But before actually publishing it or just deploying it, we need to make it look better and just pleasing so more people engage with it and it actually gets the reach. And here is where AI is going to come. And now here comes the real vibe coding part. Instead of actually just going into the style because you want to enhance the style and just add more color palettes and even your brand kits and logos, you aren't gonna go ahead into this file and write in all of this code, just perform one function. You're just going to go onto this left text box that includes the AI chat box, and you're simply just going to type in prompts like help me write JavaScript logic for a beginner habit tracker app, or if you're writing, or you can just ask it to create a palette style with specific colors and just use specific color palettes and add in your brand logo. And simply just click on generate, and it is going to provide you with a really good output. This AI will generate code using variables and event listeners and just DOM manipulation, so you can just carefully paste and generate code into the script. And as you can see that this is the preview of the entire code that I wrote down. Now I'm going to ask AI to just give me a few specific edits into my code entirely. This is just going to make it seem more engaging and just enhances its performance and credibility. You can also just ask AI to simply even locate the errors and bugs. You can just go onto your code and you probably will just see a bunch of red underlines for wherever the syntax is not correct. But you can also just ask AI to locate it in an exact file. This saves a lot of time and it just gives you enough time to actually learn. For example, if you're having trouble understanding or just refining a code that was written by Replit itself, you can simply just type in a prompt like explain what this piece of code actually means or explain what its functionality is, and it's just going to give you a clear view and just explain and simplify things for you, so it gets easier and you actually learn in real time rather than just depending on the AI to do the work for you. You can test your app many times. You can just click on run again and then finally test your app and preview it. And congratulations, you just built your first interactive app. Now let's improve it step by step like real developers actually do. We go on to AI and we are simply just going to type in codes like add a feature to delete the previous codes. You can ask Replit to just add a feature to delete the previous codes and you're going to get a new code every single time. And you can see on the screen that it actually looks really great. Anytime you click on new inspiration, you just get a new code along with the other right underneath it. And this is basically how coding works. You build in layers and this just introduces persistence and now your app feels more real. Now let's talk about structure and mindset that you need to keep while writing the exact code. When building apps, always think in stages like there's going to be a structure, basic functionality, improve user experience, add storage or advanced features, and then clean and deploy. Never ask AI to build a huge complex app in one go. That's where beginners get lost. If you're just going to ask AI to just generate you the entire application, then you might find a bunch of errors and you may not meet up to your expectations. You will get disappointed really fast. And that's not a big deal. That's pretty normal, especially for beginners. I recommend you create a new REPL again using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And this time you just use a simple code generator. And this time you just build the basic structure and just later ask AI to enhance it or just refine it and make it look more clear and just a code that holds more credibility. You can also ask AI to create small projects for you, but then later ask AI to actually explain it for you so you know what's going on in the code and you're just learning and gaining more experience using this application. You can simply just ask AI to even create this entire app like this. This was a really simple one, so the AI can just create a code for it. But for bigger projects and more complex projects, you don't need to rely on AI directly. That's just going to make it seem more artificial and it's not going to be your original work, and AI cannot copy someone else's creativity, so it's just going to land with bland ideas. Now you should notice something important is that you don't need to really memorize the whole syntax if you're understanding the logic. Meaning that if you're working with AI and you're just at the core of vibe coding, then you don't need to memorize the entire syntax. You just need to understand the exact logic behind it. You need to understand the structure and what exactly is going on. If you have the idea and you have the structure in your mind, that's great. You're just using AI to help. You're not using AI to build the entire application for you. Now, sometimes your app won't work and maybe the button doesn't respond. Like right here, the app is working fine, the button is working fine, but sometimes it might just crash or maybe it's not working at all. That is normal. Maybe the list hasn't updated, but that's still normal. Instead of panicking, you can just copy your error message and ask, explain this error in simple terms and fix it. So AI comes handy in many aspects and you can basically just use it as your helper and just your side supervisor. You can also just ask it to improve the UI to look modern but simple, or even just use soft colors and spacing and all that style coding. AI will just generate better CSS and you are now learning both development and design thinking. Now, the final act is going to be the publishing and deployment. When your app works, click deploy or publish at the very top. You see this option of publish, you click on it, and you're just going to meet up with the link. You can copy this link to your clipboard, and you can simply just invite your friends as well. Go on here with the little plus sign next to publish, copy, join link, and you can just invite your team members or even your classmates. You're working on a project and you found Replit. This is really reliable. You can just start editing and refining. Adding your own touch-up and style would be really great. It would look more personalized and original. Once everything is secure, just simply click on publish and you will just publish this application online for other people to review it, and Replit would also just generate a public link. Now the link is your live app and you can share it on social media, send it to your friends, or include it in your portfolio. This is powerful because you build something real and live, something that is original and personal. Now let's discuss best practices for vibe coding in 2026. First, always ask AI to explain what it writes, don't copy it blindly. Second, you need to build small apps consistently instead of one huge complicated project, because that is just going to get really overwhelming for you and you may not understand the structure completely yet. Third, refactor code and just ask, rewrite this code in a cleaner and simple way with comments. Fourth is experiment. You need to experiment, add small features like dark mode, animations, counters, or just notifications in your applications. So even if you're creating a simple calculator that just solves basic or just logical problems, then you can add in a notification bell or just a simple notification for every wrong or just something that is not logical and unreal. If you're dividing 0 by 0, that is not possible. So you might need to show a warning that this is not possible, please change in your input. And that is how you're going to grow and learn with experimenting with the codes yourself. Now let me just give you tips to actually generate a strong prompt so you have a strong structure of the entire code. You can say something like, act as a senior developer teaching a complete beginner. Help me build a small web app step by step. Do not give everything at once. Explain each concept clearly and wait for confirmation before continuing. That prompt alone can guide entire projects. Now let's zoom out a little and I'm just going to mention some of the tips that you as a beginner can use. And even if you're not a beginner, you're just watching this video so you learn and grow further, then this is really great and I hope you follow up with these tips that I recommend. First is that you should start small. You don't really need to create really complex projects yet. You can just create tiny, manageable projects like a code generator, a timer, or a simple to-do app. Trying to build a huge app like Instagram as your first project will only frustrate you because you cannot create an entire social media application in one sitting. Another great tip as a beginner that you should know is that use the AI assistant smartly. You need to be specific with your prompts. For example, instead of saying make a button work, say create a button that updates a paragraph with a random code from an array when clicked. Explain step by step for a beginner. You need to be really specific with the codes that you're writing. Just ask the AI to explain the code instead of just generating it. This builds your understanding and you actually know what the structure means and what exactly the code is for. Now, another great tip is that you should break your app into stages. Like, for example, we used index for structure and then we used CSS for styling, and then we just used JavaScript for behavior, and the extra animations or the storage notifications, those can come at the very end. You need to follow a proper workflow and just a proper structure. You just need a proper structure because this avoids feeling overwhelmed and the workspace is also going to stay under your control. Another great tip is that you should test it often. Once you're actually done with writing the code, just go onto console and just configure your app and just make it run once at least, so you know what's adding up, and after each feature, you can just click run and test it. Don't wait to finish everything. Small iterations help you catch mistakes early. Now, anytime you actually run the text, this is a really short code, but once you're actually writing pages and just really long codes, you will know that you need to debug it and want to have it run perfectly. This is a great tip. Just take the advice that red text is not failure, it's information. So if you do see errors, just fix it. It's basically just information. Another tip from my side is just remember that this is an advice. Red text is not a failure, it's information. Even if you do see a bunch of underlined red text, just copy it and ask AI to explain them in simple terms. That way you're also learning and you know how to fix the code. You can ask AI to just clean your code or refactor it. You don't need to just type it to refine it. You're actually going to be specific and ask it to clean or just rewrite this code in a clean and simple code that is easy to understand and maintain, and also explain it as a beginner. That way you will actually get the description and know what is up with the code. Another great tip is that if your app needs to remember data after refreshing, just use local storage. Also, don't worry if you forgot the exact JavaScript syntax. Just think about what you want to happen and then describe it clearly to AI. AI will help with the syntax. Also, the iterations are really important. So if you're creating a general app, even if it's a small project, you most likely will have to use arrays, loops, or just have it iterate at least a few times. You can just generate multiple versions of your feature and compare them. And later you can ask AI to explain the difference to you in simple words. Also, it's best that if you're a beginner, be patient with the application because you are a beginner and the AI is just going to teach you in simpler terms. You may have a hard time understanding the concepts and how the application works, but once you get comfortable and used to it, it is super easy and you might just want to take over with the application completely, and the old traditional applications may just not be in your list anymore. Now let's zoom out. Coding in 2026 is different. It is less about memorization and more about logic, structure, and communication. Your real skill is describing problems clearly and breaking them into steps. If you build one small app every week using this method, then within 3 months you will have real confidence, real projects, and just real understanding within the code. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a computer science degree. All you need is consistency and curiosity. If you're really consistent and curious about learning and just getting used to the entire workflow and even getting to learn the basic codes, then this application is definitely for you because you can learn as you type. And that is it for this full course on wipe coding with Replit step by step in 2026. If this video helped you finally understand how to use Replit without feeling overwhelmed, make sure to like this video so it reaches more beginners. Comment below what type of app you want me to build next and if you want more complete beginner-friendly coding courses like this. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.